Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. Throughout history, armies have led teams to accomplish missions. And specifically here in the United States, there are military academies and schools to teach leadership to the next generation. My guest today, Jon Tellier, is the president of JetCo Solutions, a business which helps companies of all sizes enter new markets, including all levels of government. Jon is also a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and was an active duty officer prior to starting JetCo. So here to share some of what he's learned about growing and leading teams both during and after his service, welcome Jon Tellier.
Thank you, and it's great to be on your show today. I'm looking forward to having our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with JetCo. So tell us about JetCo Solutions. Who are typical customers and what do you do for them?
So in a nutshell, we help businesses sell to government, and we do that by combining research, proposal management, and business development. And if you're familiar with the government, we have a term kind of for everything. So we call it capture. And so we assign a JetCo team to a client with the primary purpose of navigating the obstacles, the bureaucracy that the government imposes on you, and ultimately to capture and or win a government contract.
Okay, so I know there are a number of companies out there that help businesses get government contracts. What makes JetCo unique?
We're unique in a couple of different ways. One, you're assigned a team. So you have three disciplines, three experts who are working on your account. And whereas a lot of our competitors maybe just have one. And what we found is in order to be successful as a best practice, you have to combine the research and then the government's going to make you write something. So you got to be able to put pen to paper and be able to write a responsible and responsive response to the government. And so finding all three of those disciplines under one roof or finding somebody that can have all of those different skills is hard. And so we've been successful assigning a team. It's kind of like, you come in for a race car driver, you come in for a pit stop, and you got folks who are working on your tires, you got people who are filling your gas tank and doing your windshield. We're kind of similar mentality is we're gonna focus on the different aspects, but you put them all together and we help you become successful.
Okay. So how did you get started in marketing and government contracting?
How did I get started? I got pushed into it.
Okay.
And everybody's got to have, I guess, that moment of clarity. So 17 years ago when we started the business, my wife and business partner, frankly, we found ourselves out of work and trying to pay for a private school education and travel hockey. And we said, well, let's try government contracting because I had a military background and had worked for, a number of years in the industry. And Sue was helping other businesses at the state level win government contracts. So we put it together and then we went out and we won our first contract to provide ammunition bags for McAllister Army Ammunition Plant. And then, you fast forward, we add some people and so 17 years later, we're still doing it. But I'm not so sure that, I would have signed up initially and said, hey, I'm going to sell to the government. And so it was almost out of necessity and survival to make that decision. Now, hindsight being 2020, I think it was the greatest or one of the greatest decisions that I've made in the course of my lifetime. And so when I talk to different people who are contemplating that, everybody kind of has that, it's like take that step off the diving board and go into the pool, and that's the scariest part. And so once you do that, then you hit the water. Now you got to swim and get out and do it all over again. And I think some of that, well, it's not necessarily lack of fear, but maybe some ambition or stems back from my jumping out of airplanes. So you have the courage, and maybe not the common sense to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, but you jump out and then you kind of open the next chapter. Okay, so now what do I do? And I got to land this thing and then move out and do different things. So that's kind of how we got into it.
Okay. So you and your wife start the business. How long until you started to add teammates? And then what does the team look like today? How big are you and what are some of those roles?
It's great. So it took us probably 3 or 4 years to add somebody. So the first year we wanted to kind of pay our bills. The second year, I took a salary. The third year, we both took a salary. The fourth year, we hired somebody, and we moved out of the house and immediately into to an office space that was too small. So fast forward, now we're around between 20 and 25 folks on any given day. We're organized into 3 main groups. So we've got a research group. They answer questions and find things. We've got a proposal management group. Obviously, they are writing proposals and grants, and then we've got a business development / capture group, which really are advocates for our clients. And then we've got a vice president of client services that makes sure that we honor our commitments and we're doing the things that we say we're going to do. So that's the composition of our team, and we've got a very broad cross section, not only in terms of age, capabilities, gender, and so it's very wide. We've got folks who are in their mid-20s, and then we've got people that obviously are a little bit older, and with the varying degrees of experiences and skill sets. So a common theme or a common thread that we look for is somebody who has high responsibility, and so our business is a series of deadlines. The government doesn't really tell you, or ask you, hey, when can you submit this proposal? They tell you it's due at 30 November at 3:00 and don't be late. And so having high responsibility individuals on the team in all of our disciplines allows us to do the work and meet the deadlines. Because the government is at all levels is very unforgiving in terms of the deadlines that they submit. And if you're late, whether it's a minute, 10 minutes, an hour, a day, they reserve the right to not evaluate your submission. And I can speak from experiences. It's happened less. I can count on one hand the number of times it's happened over the years. And most recently, it was we had an ice storm in Memphis, and our FedEx package got delayed, and it was late, and the government said they didn't even open the box; they just sent it right back to us. And then during COVID, when nobody was working in the office, we did have a couple times where it went to the office, but there was nobody there to pick it up. But we were able to remedy those. So, but having those types of individuals on our team, self-starters and people who like to compete and win, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're competing with other folks to win government contracts.
That's interesting. So So having that high level of responsibility and being competitive are key things. How long along the path, or how soon along your path with your wife, did you recognize that that's who you're looking for in new hires? Or is that something that you always knew and were always looking for?
Initially when we started out, we said, let's have somebody who's got maybe a poli-sci background or a former staffer. And then as our business kind of matured and the groups kind of developed, we recognized that, from our research group, a lot of them want to be lawyers. So their stop along the way is to learn how to hone their research skills, which obviously will help them in another position. And then our writers are English majors, technical writers, grant writers, poli-sci, and then our business developers typically have a sales background, and are motivated in terms of wins and losses. And so our EOS scorecard tracks all of that. So we measure and it allows people to see it in black and white. So if I find 4 opportunities this week and my goal is 2, I get a green check mark. If I'm meeting sales goals for the year, then I get a green check mark. And if my conversion rate dips down to below the standard, then I get a big old red X. And so it allows people to own their metrics and develop individual strategies to meet them. And so we've been very fortunate along the way, and that's great feedback. When I talk to clients and other prospects, I can tell them our conversion rate is 41.7%, and that's a true, because it's on our scorecard, and we have our meetings on Tuesday, so that's where it's at. And I can tell you, by client, how many opportunities that you had to review last week, and where are you at in the sales goals. And so we use the data analytics to drive strategies, because if something's not working, we've got the data to say, okay, it's not working. Let's take a couple steps back, recalibrate, and then maybe tweak our strategy and go a different route to ultimately winning that contract.
Sure. So I'm curious, that back to that, with the responsibility and dependability and the sense of timeliness on things. How do you recruit for that, and how do you check for that in the interview process to know that you're getting a person that has those characteristics?
So we have some questions that we ask, and so one of them is like, how do you like to be rewarded? How do you organize your day? How do you keep track of tasks? And so, I would answer that question as I have a notebook. I write things down. I like to cross things off. What is your typical day? What's an ideal day like? And so if they say, I like to come in, I like to get things done, I have a schedule, and I like to be productive. If those are things that we kind of look for, and then with our writers, we actually give them a little writing test to make sure they can conjugate verbs and put sentences together. But no, and then with the other folks, it's try to measure that. So we do have a kind of a series of questions that we're, and we've developed these over the years. It's not something that we found the other day, but it's because we've tried and we've failed, and we've been successful in both cases along the way. So it's been a kind of a long, steady road that we've come to know and understand it. So we're looking for little particulars that that people have. And then on the other flip side of that coin is we want to make sure that you like to have fun, you like dogs, and you fit into the culture. So not only that you're in the right person in the right seat, but you want to be a Jetconian, and you don't mind coming to the Friday evening murder mystery company event, and so those are some of the I guess qualifiers that we're looking for our team.
Sure. Well, I definitely want to get into more of those lessons learned over time. It's always interesting to hear by trial and error and other ways that what worked and what didn't. We'll get into that on the other side of the break. So stay with us on the Clarity Advisor Show.
Is your business where you want it to be or on track to get there? Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. Today we're talking with Jon Tellier, the president of JetCo Solutions. And Jon, we're talking about lessons learned about how to find those right people over the years. What other lessons did you learn, either by doing things well or by messing things up along the way over the last 17 years?
Yeah, I think we've obviously been successful, and we've failed on numerous items, but nothing's been catastrophic. And so I always tell folks that surround yourself with a good network, and you don't have to be the expert and know how to do everything, because there's probably somebody out there that can help you with payroll, that can help you with IT, can help you with physical security, and so whatever the topic is, if you can find those peers and maybe mentors, that's incredibly beneficial. Having good representation, good financial planning, good wealth and finance management. So people that are looking out for your best interest. In some cases, you pay for those services. And so they have that fiduciary responsibility to make sure that you're successful. And I think that's part of it. And then having good people. We recently promoted a couple of people internally, and that's a testament to their enthusiasm and their ability to handle more responsibility. And we were excited, and although we went and looked outside, but at the end of the day, we looked at these two individuals and said, hey, they've earned it. They've done a good job, and they really are a big JetCo supporter, and they're great for the culture. And let's give them the opportunity. We're not going to put them out on an iceberg or just throw them a life preserver, but we actively work with them to become better leaders, become better managers, and then start looking at the business from a different aspect. Because 3 months ago they were filling out a time card, and now they are managing the schedules of people that work for them. And so I think with our, and I mentioned it before with the U.S. system, we have quarterly discussions. Sometimes those are hard, and people kind of blow them off. But I really think they're worth their gold, because you can have open and honest conversations about what's working and what's not. And if something's not working, then do you need more resources? Do you need more training? And then having and creating an atmosphere where people feel comfortable about being vulnerable and talking about that. And so that's what we've tried to get to. and the leaders included myself. I throw myself into that same thing. If I'm not doing something right, then how can I get somebody to help me with a particular issue or training or something that's financial or building related.
Yeah. Now, Jon, you're a West Point cadet and spent several years on active duty doing things, as you mentioned earlier, like jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. So what have you learned from your military training and experience that has made you a better leader?
It's almost a double-edged sword with the military. The military is great at identifying individual training tasks and collective, for the group, and being able to identify those and developing ways to train, and people in the military, your soldiers are a captive audience, but what I've found is you can't treat employees like soldiers. It just doesn't work. Because the way that you would motivate somebody in the Army, and I was an airborne Ranger infantryman, and I thinking back, what we used to do to get somebody to motivate them is not going to work with my employees, and frankly, it's not going to work with this generation. And I feel like I'm showing my age a little bit, but I think you have to adapt and be flexible and overcome some of your biases. And so one that I've struggled with personally, as we've kind of come out from the COVID experience of a couple of years, is that we have a hybrid schedule where before, every day everybody's in the office, and then that changed. And so coming back out, technology has evolved with Teams and Zoom and all of the other instant messaging apps and cameras and technology. And so for somebody to do the work, they don't necessarily have to be sitting in the office. Now, the dogs are mad about that because they like to see you and see what kind of treats and what you're having for lunch and what do you leave in the trash can at the end of the day. So I know that they're disappointed, but the way that we work and is a little bit different. And so I've had to change my outlook personally and professionally, for that matter. And but that's not to say that the things that the Army taught me at a very young age, and they're part of our values. Hard work, integrity, loyalty, perseverance, being connected. Those are all values and virtues that since I was 18 years old, have been kind of browbeat into me that those are the things that are important in that work. And I have in the office here, I have a little thing. It's a little plaque that says, it's from George Marshall, and he says, I have a dangerous mission, and I want a West Point football player to volunteer, something along that line. And so I think having people that are athletes and played in sports, they know how to be on a team. They know hard work. Bobby Knight recently passed, and he was assistant coach at Army, and Coach K was one of his basketball players, and so he wanted you to go to class, he wanted you to get an education, and so I think some of those values and those attitudes aren't lost on me, and so as we, try to help other folks win contracts, those are some of the values and activities that we think about, and we do, because what we do is real hard. I mean, you got to go out and got to find the contract, or you find the opportunity, and convince the government that they should make an award to you, and they want a risk-free, efficient buying experience, and so getting them to feel comfortable with you, is not something that is for the faint of heart.
Yeah, for sure. And when I love that last section there, I mean, you touched on things that we talk about on the show quite a bit, that there's kind of long-standing principles that still work. And it's those values of integrity and hard work and things that haven't changed. And then the other things you touched on there was that some things have changed, that we're working remotely and we've got different tools that we use, and things feel different. So kind of pulling those things together, what's your best advice, having been leading teams either in the military or in your business for decades now, and seeing that some things stay the same and some things are different? What's your best advice for leaders to win today?
Yeah. I think as the leader of the company, you have a responsibility to basically set the vision and the goals, as well as the tone and tenor of the organization. And in the military, we had a term for that, and it was we call it commander's intent. And so if you knew the intent of your boss, and he or she was not around, you could still go out and do the mission, because at the end of the day, you knew what had to be accomplished, because they'd expressed their intent. We don't call that necessarily commander's intent anymore. It's vision or strategy. But I think if people understand, and if you were to ask any one of our associates about what we do and what's important, and that would be winning contracts for our clients, and that allows them to grow, add people to their organization, be successful, maybe fill in the valleys and the mountains within their cash flow cycles, and in many cases, they're a little bit more altruistic about it. And what we do at the end of the day helps the warfighter. That's that young individual that is at the tip of the spear, that might be out in an OP in Afghanistan, or somebody that's in the Pacific, or a sailor or an airman that's in the Arctic region, or the Balkans, or somewhere in Europe. And so our clients in many ways are doing things or providing services that at the end of the day help that individual. And so we've been wrestling with was one of our metrics that we've talked about as a leadership team is how many warfighters have we had the opportunity to impact, and so we've helped our clients win over $8 billion of contract awards. But what does that translate into? Touching somebody and making it personal. And so I think if we can get our people to think that way, then meeting deadlines, coming to work, and all the distractors are not there, because everyone's focused on doing a good job. And so one of the other challenges we have is everybody's so high responsibility that sometimes they get the blinders on. And so if you've got three groups all racing towards the same goal line, getting them to play with one another, to coordinate, and to share information. You wouldn't think you'd have that in a small business, but you do to some degree, where somebody might know something and they need to get that over to the capture, or they let the proposal manager know that this change or this amendment was published and this was what was changed. So, we still have some of the challenges that most other businesses probably have when dealing with multiple groups. Everybody, like I said, everybody here at JetCo is focused on the ultimate win for the government client.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what business you're in. Wherever there's people involved, there's going to be communication issues, and overcoming those communication challenges seems to always be the thing that either good businesses do really well, and it's the stumbling blocks for others. And I love going back to what you just said too, Jon, about that higher purpose. It does seem like it's much more important today to make sure that you're clear with your team. Sometimes our customers don't necessarily care about our why, but the team wants to know why. They want to have something more than, like you said, those short-term goals or financial goals. Those are important, but they want to know, well, why are we doing this? What's the bigger picture here? And I love that you guys are able to express that. Jon, this has been really helpful and interesting, and I appreciate your time. Who should reach out to you, and what would be the best way for them to do that?
So if you have a product or service that you think that the government is currently buying or should be buying, then and you're a second stage company, then by all means, reach out to myself, Jon Tellier at JetCo Solutions. Tellier at JetCo Solutions is the email, or go to our website, jetcosolutions.com. That's a good start, and you can click the contact us button, and that comes right straight to me. And then we'll dial you up, have a conversation, and see if government contracting is good. And we've talked to people who either aren't ready or the government isn't buying enough to justify outsourcing it. And we're pretty honest in terms of, hey, either not right now or not at all. And I think that people appreciate that. A fair and honest assessment that, and I tell the story about the guy that had the stainless steel pallets, and he was mad at me. And I said, government's just not going to buy them. And he goes, but these are great pallets. I'm like, they probably are, but it's, I don't see a path forward. And so after a couple minutes of grumpiness, he later came back and said, I appreciate that. You didn't waste my time. You didn't take my money. And it allowed me to focus on other markets. And I said, hey, that's great. And, I'm glad that we're able to do that. And like I said, honesty and integrity is paramount to what we do.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we'll get those contact points and your website in the show notes so people can directly link with you. Jon, again, thank you so much for being here. This is really interesting, and I appreciate your time.
Great. Have a great day.
All right. And that brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisor Show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisor Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.